In this video, I will talk about how to solve absolute value equations. But first, what is an absolute value? Well, an absolute value is basically an operation that will always give you a positive result. So let's go ahead and look at a few examples here. So we have the absolute value of 8. The absolute value of 8 will be positive 8. The absolute value of negative 3, what do you think it will be? It is 3. And the absolute value of 2 is simply 2. So why is it always positive? Well, let's consider a number line. So we have the point 0 in the middle, and the reason why every absolute value is positive is because we are simply looking at the distance of the number we are taking and seeing how far it is from 0. So let's consider negative 3. So here, if we look at the distance from negative 3 to 0, we see that it is just 1 unit, 2 units, and 3 units. So it just is 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is 3, which is why we get positive 3. And the same thing for 2. It is simply just a distance from 0 to 2. So we see that it is 1 unit and 2 units. So we simply just add up those 2 units, and that will give us a distance of 2. And the same thing could be done for 8. So let's go ahead and look at the absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to 6. So what we're going to go ahead and do is write the two equations. So we have x plus 2 is equal to 6, and x plus 2 is equal to negative 6. And here, if we solve for x on the left-hand side, we will have x is equal to 4. So plug in x, and we get 4 plus 2, and that is equal to 6, or the absolute value of 6, which is also equal to 6. So that is one of our solutions. And here we have x plus 2 is equal to negative 6, so x is going to be equal to negative 8 if we just subtract 2 from both sides. And we have negative 8 plus 2, and that is equal to the absolute value of negative 6, which the absolute value of negative 6 is going to be positive 6. So we see that the negative input will always give a positive output no matter what. Now let's go ahead and look at x plus 3 is equal to negative 6. Well, here, no matter what numbers we choose to be inside of the absolute value, we will never get a negative 6. So we could just say that there is no solution. And we could even try if we have x plus 3 is equal to negative 6. So x is equal to negative 9, and here we have the absolute value of negative 9 plus 6, or plus 3, and here we have the absolute value of negative 9 plus 3, and that gives the absolute value of negative 6, which is positive 6. So we have no solution. Let's go ahead and look at 2 times the absolute value of x plus 3 plus 8 is equal to 24. So the first thing we want to do is subtract by 8 to both sides of the equation, so that we end up with 2 times the absolute value of x plus 3, and 8 minus 8 is 0, so that cancels out, and it is equal to 24 minus 8, which is 16. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is simply divide by 2, so that we get the absolute value by itself. And 2 over 2 is 1, so you just end up with x plus 3 all inside of the absolute value, and that is equal to 16 over 2, which is 8. So now we end up with solving just two equations now that we have our absolute value on just the left-hand side and our constant on the right-hand side. So here we have x plus 3 is equal to 8, and x plus 3 is equal to negative 8. Solving for x in the first equation, we have x is equal to 8 minus 3, which is 5. And in the second equation, we end up with negative 8 minus 3, which is negative 11. So, plugging in our solutions for x, we end up with the absolute value of 5 plus 3 gives the absolute value of 8, which is 8. And for the second equation, we have negative 11 plus 3. That gives the absolute value of negative 8, which is equal to 8. So we see that solving absolute value equations is just making two equations with whatever's on the right-hand side of the equal sign to be positive or negative, if and only if it is a number. So let's just go ahead and look at one final example. So we will have the absolute value of negative 9 plus v all over 8, and that is equal to 3. So what we should go ahead and do is first multiply both sides by 8. So we're going to multiply left-hand side by 8 and the right-hand side by 8. The 8's will cancel out, which will in turn leave us with 9 plus v, all inside the absolute value, and 3 times 8, which is 24. Now, we can make our two equations. So we have v minus 9 is equal to positive 24, and v minus 9 is equal to negative 24. Solving for v, we will have v is equal to 9 plus 24, which is 33. And solving the second equation, we end up with 9 minus 24, and that is negative 15. So now plugging in both of our answers that we have, we see that we have 33 minus 9, and 33 minus 9 is equal to the absolute value of 24, and the absolute value of 24 is simply just 24. And the second equation's solution is going to be the absolute value of negative 15 minus 9 all inside the absolute value, and negative 15 minus 9, that is the same thing as negative 24. And the absolute value of negative 24 is just 24 as well.